Welcome to episode 2 of our Journeyman save. In the first episode, we took over at Welling. We were second bottom of the National Conference South. So obviously we've got a big job on our hands to stay in the league, as this is the lowest league we can go. We started pretty well. We only lost one game in the league, which was the last game. Unfortunately, we went out with the FA Trophy, getting beaten in a replay. But we've got a big second half of the season coming up. So without further ado, let's get going. Going into January, we just lost our first league game after we'd taken over at Welling. January as a whole has been a pretty bad month. We lost 5-3 away at Dulwich. We were 1-0 up, then 2-1 up. Then they pulled it back to 2-2 just before the hour, and then scored 3 goals within the last 15 minutes, and we just got picked up a late consolation goal. A couple of days later, we played them in the home game, and then got hammered 4-1, and basically weren't really at the races in that game at all. Obviously their centre forward scored 4 goals. We just were abysmal, particularly defensively. There's a couple of long balls over the top where we got caught out. I then followed that up with another defeat against St Albans. Again, really not at the races. A couple of long balls over the top. We really kind of struggled, which meant we had sort of changed the formation then to see if that would make a difference. Didn't really come to much, so we changed the formation again for the Chelmsford game, and we played a lot better, particularly second half. The first half we weren't really at the races. Second half created a load of chances. Dion Moore, who we'd picked up on loan, scored twice on his debut, and we managed to hang on to the draw. And then the following game against Oxford City, who were sort of mid-table, we got off to a great start. Then they equalised. We really kind of put a fair bit of pressure on in the second half and managed to get another goal from Dion Moore there to see us through with a 2-1 victory. Since the beginning of January, we've brought in another couple of players. We really were struggling in terms of bodies, and particularly with the change in formation, we needed some wide players as well. So we brought Dion Moore in to play up front. He's scored 3 goals in 3 appearances for us. I think that's 3 goals in 3 goals in 2 appearances for us, averaging 8. So he's doing pretty well so far. Then we also brought in Jed Abbey on loan, who can play either side or can play in the number 10 role. He's struggled a little bit with his fitness in the first couple of games, but he's picked up an assist already, so hopefully we can, once he settles in, he can play well. And we picked up Andrew Seeley-Harris on loan as well, another wide player who can play on both sides. He's also struggled a bit with fitness since we picked him up. Again, he's played both games and got an assist, so he only came off the bench in the second one though. Coming up next, we've got a big game away at Braintree, who are bottom of the league. So at the moment, we are 5 points clear of the bottom. If we can win, take that to 8 points, that'll be a big step towards us staying up. If we get beat, we're in real bother again at the bottom there. So we'll be back with that game in just a sec. So the originally scheduled game against Braintree was postponed because of a waterlogged pitch, and the league situation's changed a bit since then. So we've played 2 games. So we played against Chippenham, who were at the time 15th in the league, and we won 2-0. We were pretty comfortable for most of the game. We took a lead in the first half through Dion Moore. Created a load of chances again in the whole game, but it took till the 92nd minute for us to pick up a second goal just to make sure of the result. And then the last game, we were playing against Dartford, who were top of the league, and we put in a brilliant performance. We created chances left, right and centre. We even missed a penalty in the second half. We were 2-0 up. They pulled us back just before half time, and Joe Muscat scored a free kick from the edge of the box in the second half. Both of those last 2 games we've had Mason Saunders-Henry playing, who was with us when we took over, but it's the first he'd been injured, so it's the first time we've had a chance to get him back in the team, and playing him with Abby and the rest of the loan players that we brought in. So with Abby, Sealy Harris, and Dale Moore, we've looked a lot more potent going forward in the last couple of games. So going into the game against Braintree, obviously, like I say, the situation has changed a bit because we were only 5 points clear of the drop, so a loss would have really put us in a dangerous position. But we're now, with those 2 wins, 3 back-to-back, but the 2 wins since we were originally supposed to be playing Braintree, we're now 11 points clear of them, so we're in a bit more of a comfortable position. Hopefully we can start to move forward on the teams that are above us in the league. Going into the team, we're picking pretty much our strongest team. In fact, it is our strongest team. We've got some decent options off the bench if we do need to change things, but hopefully we can kick on with this current form and just pick up where they left off last time and just go in and hopefully just steamroller over Braintree to pick up another win. So let's get them encouraged. We've already had a couple of shots, but no highlights so far. Pretty dull game by the looks of it. Not much happening. Let's hope they don't counter on us here. Let's get what a tackle. Right, let's get the ball out of there. That's not what we were wanting at all. Right, we need some sort of reaction here. Let's get the ball in the box. That looks like the dodgiest penalty ever. He clearly won the ball there, but we'll take it. And that's us levelled up straight away. I think Shakumbi's going to have to come off at half time, just looking at how knackered he looks. Right, let's take him off and bring him on and swap them around. Let's start the second half and give them another encourage. I'm concerned about the chances we're giving up compared to what we've created. It's completely different to what it's been in the last couple of games. And our front 4 really aren't performing either, so I think we're going to have to make some changes up here. Right, so we'll bring Stevenson on. And we'll bring on Salt for Avi. Let's demand more from them. It's a good job, given our performance in this game, that we've managed to win those last 3 games in a row. Because if we were still where we were before, this would not be a good result. Right, can we sneak a winner? We've not really deserved it, but that's got to be offside. It's the first time we've really looked. I think it's actually the first time we've threatened in the second half, but it was well offside, wasn't it? I mean, the whole of the second half, we've definitely looked more like losing than anything else. Right. Demand more again. What on earth was that? He couldn't have picked their right back out better if he tried. And then he doesn't get back in to get... Just when we thought we turned the corner, everything changes. So basically everyone that's played well in the last couple of games where we've won has managed to just not turn up. So, I mean, it leaves us still in 15th place. We are still 11 points off the drop, though, because Tunbridge have dropped below Braintree, so it's not too bad. But just when I thought I'd kind of figured out what was going on, and we put in a performance like that. Plenty to ponder for the rest of the season ahead. So we've made it to the final day of the league season. Thankfully, looking at the table here, you can see we're well safe from any chance of relegation. The goal difference is obviously a bit of a concern. We've had what I can only describe as a rollercoaster of a season, because we started off fairly well when we took over. So we took over for that Tunbridge game. We drew, won the next two, suffered our first defeat in the league at the end of December. Then we lost the next three on the bounce after that. Drew a game, won 3 on the bounce. Lost in the game against Braintree, which is the last one we saw there. Lost the following game, beat Hemel Hempstead, and then lost 5 on the bounce, including a horrific 6-0 defeat against Hampton and Richmond. Then we changed the formation up again, picked up a draw against Tunbridge, who were bottom of the league again at that point, beat Ebbsfleet, beat Eastbourne, beat Dorking, who were top of the league at that time, I think 4 points clear, beat Haverton, Waterloo, lost to Hungerford, and then beat Maidstone in the previous game. So we've definitely kind of had ups and downs. There's never been one consistent run of form. It's a couple of wins here, a couple of losses here. We didn't add anyone else in terms of transfers after the loan players that we brought in that we mentioned prior to the Braintree game. What we have had, though, is the youth intake, and one of the players was David Butler, who we gave his debut off the bench at the age of 15, and he scored. In fact, the 2 games he's come off the bench, he scored goals in. So we may keep him on the bench and bring him on later on. Obviously, we've just got the last day of the season left against Concord Rangers. We've got a couple of players out suspended, so there'll be a bit of a rejig team. And then going forward, we've got the small part of the end of the season. The contract's up. Do they want us to stay? Do we want to stay? What's going to happen? But before we get into all of that, we'll see the game against Concord Rangers. Okay, the final day of the season's here. As we said, we've got a few issues in terms of suspension. So Statham and Ezanolim have come in for the suspended Perkins and Muscat. Muscat's been one of our best players, loads of assists, will be a big miss. We've also started Deepo Akinyemi instead of Tom Derry up front. So we're just going to go in, carry on the last performance. And let's see if we can send the fans home on the last day of the season with a nice victory. Oh, almost. Right, can we get the ball into the box and cause some problems? I think that was probably supposed to be a cross rather than a shot, because it wasn't a particularly... it was a bit on the weak side. Oh, nice route one, bit of football there. Just could do with a better finish. I mean, no matter what happens in this game, we're going to finish 15th, which, considering we took over in 21st, and the aim was to avoid relegation, in the end, it's been fairly comfortable, but that run of 5 losses in a row had us insecure in our job, and probably another couple we'd have been sacked. But having moved from insecure after those 5 wins, the job's now very secure, but I'm not sure really whether it is, because they haven't offered us a new contract yet, which is up in about a month's time. So we'll see what happens there. We're piling on the chances now. Right, I think we'll make a change up front and we'll bring the young lad on, see if he can continue his run of goals off the bench. Jed Abbey with only his second goal since we picked him up on loan. We really picked him up on loan when we were deciding we were going to play with some wingers, but he's actually played a lot better in behind the front 3 since we changed the formation, because it's allowed him to break through like that, and that's the second goal. The first goal he scored was pretty similar to that as well. Oof. Right, got to stop the counter attack. I mean, it's that left-hand side of the defence where we're missing players, without Perkins being there and without Muscat at left back. It was one straight ball over the top of the left-hand side centre half. Well, he came chasing in for it, and then the left back didn't cover in. I was going to say that had to be offside. It's an interesting little... I mean, it's a good job he there was a foul because the free kick was abysmal. Right, now can we just hold on to this for the rest of the game? Don't do anything stupid. Oh. Right, slide it through. Or take a shot from distance. Not the best option there. Oh. Thank God for the defender covering around, because God knows what the keeper was doing there. All in all, decent performance. Looking at the XG there, we probably deserved the win. Should have probably been a bit more comfortable than it was. Looking at the number of shots we managed to rack up, we're just not accurate enough. But all in all, decent performance in the season. 15th, as I say, when we were 20th when we took over out of 21. But the sole aim was just to stay up. That'll do. And we'll be back in a second for the end of season review. So, end of season review time. In terms of transfers, so we brought in Dean Moore, who played 20 games for us, scored 12 goals, 2 assists. I think that was definitely a success. Joe Muscat was already in before we got here, and he was, I would say, our best player this season, certainly in the time we were in charge. Played 38 games, 2 goals, which I think were both free kicks, and 8 assists. Aaron Barnes, again, someone who's already here, but again, chipped in with assists, both fullbacks getting forward and getting assists. Jack Batten, we picked up for nothing from Bath City, was our best central defender after we signed him. Teddy Perkins looked the best, but flattered to deceive and put in a few stinkers of performances towards the end of the season. And then a lot of the other players that we picked up didn't really play enough games. I mean, Jed Abbey didn't really perform on loan there. And a lot of the players just didn't do it. I mean, Andrew Sealy-Harris on loan just really didn't perform and struggled to get in the team afterwards. In terms of how the season went, we were expected to get to the fourth qualifying round. We were out of the FA Cup before we even took over. The FA Trophy, we got knocked out in the first in a replay. I mean, that wasn't us the biggest win. That was before we took over. Match to remember, that was our first win, I think. We obviously had the man sent off early on and then came back very late to score. Finances are just what you would expect. Team of the season, well, we never played 4-4-2. So Joe Muscat was the fans player of the season. Dion Moore, who was in on loan, was the young player of the season. If we do stay, we'll probably be looking to sign him up because he's leaving his current club on a free transfer. Jack Batten signing of the season, which you would expect. Top goal scorer was Dion Moore. Joe Muscat with the most assists, the most player of the matches, the highest average rating, definitely our player of the season. And that's us. That's the end of our first season. So that's season 1 done. Now the issue going forward is what happens next. So we're out of contract with Welling at the end of this season. They've not offered us a new deal. the squad's not great. So join us next time to find out whether they offer us a contract, whether we sign it, whether we move on elsewhere. All will be revealed in episode 3.